juices that we obviously will need to be able to take in is going to be focused on the fiscal gas metering, our experience. We want to hear from the lead speaker. What exactly is it they are doing right? What did they put into place? What were the processes? What was the policy that guided most of their own engagement? Are they making profit? Are they also looking at the future? What informed all of the different strategy, which we have come to understand them to be one of the leaders in the industry? And of course, they are one of our sponsors, and I'm so much excited and honored to invite Mr. Victor Kolumba, Manager, Production System, Aradel Holdings, as he comes in to make his presentation. Please, can you put your hands together for him?
Good morning, great industry colleagues. It's good to see these beautiful faces in the last 3 days. And it's my pleasure to also have this opportunity to be here to, like Stephen said, share our experience. My name, like you heard, is Victor Kolumba, and I'm currently the manager in charge of production system for Aradel. Of course, I'm sure by now we all know Aradel is just a name that came into existence barely 2 months ago, exactly 2 months ago, actually. And before then, we were known, called, and addressed as Niger Delta Exploration and Production. I'm hoping we all rested well. Did we? Did we rest well? Because today is the last day, and we hope to be able to take all that we can and go on with. Let me crave the indulgence of the chairman to stand on the protocol that he had established yesterday. It's always very rewarding to speak on the last day of an event like this, because what that then does for you is to ride on the back of great minds who have already talked about most of the things you want to say. And it just makes your work very, very easy. Let me thank the organizers of this conference for the massive appreciation of our efforts as Aradel on behalf of my management, to say we also appreciate you too, the organizers, for appreciating our little effort. My coming out here is to speak on natural gas physical measurements, our own experience as Aradel. And next slide, please. That's my profile. And by the way, 2 days from today, on the 7th of October, would make me 12 years since I joined Aradel. So I think I'm in a good position to tell the story of the company. I thought I'd deserve an applause for that. It's not easy to serve an organization for 12 years, right? I joined Aradel on the 7th of October, 2011, and counting. Mainly, my sojourn with the company had been in charge of gas operations. And I make bold to say that it was during my stay there that we won the Award of Excellence from the World Bank, GGFR, right, in 2015, for zero routine gas flaring. And we continue to hold that till today. If you come to our facility today, I can assure you all that you'll be seeing would just be a candlelight look of gas flaring. And that's just the technical flare, or the safety flare we just keep to burn in case of any blowdown situation. So we've completely complied with Section 105 of the PIA in terms of not venting gas. Next slide. Who are we? Who is Aradel? Who are we? Of course, Aradel Gas, really, is what I'm here to speak on. And we are a subsidiary of Aradel Holdings, PLC, the mother company, which, like I said earlier, was NDEP up until a couple of months ago, right? We have a gas plant, currently 100 million scf per day gas plant, which we also do have equipment that we can very easily scale that up to 400 million scf per day. So it means that for us, we would soon be coming to Maoga Musa to say, give us approval to scale that up if some of the challenges we'll talk about here are overcome. We are an indigenous operator supplying export gas to NLNG, the only one that supplies gas to NLNG through the Rumuji node. And we've been doing that since November 2012 without any hitch, right? I remember when my former MD would tell the story of when we wanted to start doing this, there was so much skepticism. But today we are proud to say that 12 years down the line, we are consistently doing this. We also produce gas for the domestic markets. So the DGDO, and Oganyan, who is here, can confirm, we comply to the regulations around the DGDO with some of the constraints we'll see later. So we are DGDO compliant, the domestic gas delivery obligation. Again, we comply with Section 105 of the PIA. And in a sense, we had started complying before that regulation, even before the advent of the PIA. If you remember, PIA is 2021, but we had started monetizing our gas resource since 2012. Next slide. So this is, among other awards, this speaks to the award that we got in 2015, like I said, for the zero routine flaring from the World Bank's GRF. Right, and for me, I don't know how the picture is appearing, but when I broke my tooth in the industry about 20 years ago, I may not name the company, but there was an IOC then that was aggressively building AGG plants, and when we went to commission one of their plants, the flare there was massive horizontal flaring. But when I look back and say, look, we've come in as a minor, and we've been able to, in our own plant, not have the kind of thing that we saw back then. And I'm hoping that plant is no more like that today. Next slide. So for measurements, really, like we've all heard, a lot of speakers tell us, there are things you need to do if you must get your measurements right. It is not something you just wake up and start to do. So for us, the methods and standards that we apply with is very important. And you could see there some of the ISO standards, right, that guide what we do in terms of measurements. It's things around oxygen dew points, gross heating value, and hydrocarbons, a whole lot of them. And then we comply with these standards to make sure that at the end of the day, the actual exercise of measuring our gas and exporting it meets all standards for reliability and accuracy. Next slide. So what is the procedure that we use? Ogamoza spoke about the regulation to ensure that operators have GCs, right? For us, we've always had GCs. We've always had all the equipment needed to get this done. And the two pictures you are seeing are actually from our plant and the types of GC that we have. The first one is the Daniel model 590, and then the Rosemount 700. Those are the two GCs that we have. Remember, for us, it's an N+1 philosophy. So we have two lines that we only use one per time, right? So in case of one fails, we then use the other one. So we have adequate N+1 philosophy. And each of the GCs is tied to those two lines, right? So we have those dual Daniel orifice meters, and then all the pressure differential transmitters, densitometers, and other transmitters that we need to use. If you come to our metering system, all of these are intact, and we've been complying with the regulations in this regard. All measurements, all the units are done in SI metric units. And then we have a control panel that monitors and archives and then reports all the functions of the physical metering system. Next slide. So that picture you're seeing on the right is actually, if you look at it, it's a dual line, like I said. So there are two lines for consistency and reliability. So at no point would we say, oh, we cannot meter gas. And then we are configured in such a way that should one of the flow computer fails, right, the other one then kicks in. And we call that arrangement the pay and check. So while one is active, the other one just checks it. And if the active pay fails for any reason, the one that is configured as a check then kicks in and does what it needs to do. quarterly validations are done in compliance with the regulations. So we do quarterly revalidation. We make sure that third party come in and witnessed by our off-taker and ourselves, and also the regulators carry out that very adequately. We've never missed, and when we meet surprises, we have measures in place to address those surprises and get back into production. Please, if there are any questions as we go along, I don't mind taking, or you can then reserve for the last. So on this slide is the list of the things that we revalidate. Don't know how it's showing here, but you could see all the equipment that revalidates every quarter. Those are some of our transmitters. You have the temperature elements, the differential pressure transmitter, the moisture analyzer, densitometer, and the first set there is for our NLNG consumers. Then if you look below, we also have equipment that revalidates for our CNG, which is a domestic gas off-taker. We will know more about the domestic gas off-taker as we proceed. But these are the items that every quarter we have them revalidated for compliance. Next slide. So the entire system, and I like what Dr. Kansho said on the first day, that, if you don't have the money, you can actually do these things with your Excel, right? By calculating your volume and getting the same result. But for us, we had since automated. And I'm sure Fatona would be very happy, our presenter of the last 2 days. So we have flow computers that do all of this for us. And those 4 equipment you are seeing are flow computers that we use, right? And it's a popular Omni type of flow computers that takes all the density, all the parameters, and then just calculates and gives you the right parameters at the end of the day in compliance with your agreements. The mass flow, again, is based on your orifice meter as it's designed, and we comply to all stipulated standards. Next slide. So there are 4 basic for us. There are 4 indicators, and I'm sure this applies to everyone else, that 4 major indicators that underscore the quality of the gas that you push out into your pipeline. And what you do with your measurement system, with analyzing system, is to make sure that these indicators are within range. Because you would then go out of range if any of them is out of the agreed range. So the ranges for composition for us, and Dr. Kansho said this on the first day a lot, right? I remember we've had wells that gave us 89 molecular percentage of methane. We've also had 93. So for us, that has been our range. But again, 95 is the ceiling. We also have the gross heating value, which is a range that we need to meet for 42.9 to about 49.2. That is what is recommended for us, and that's what we are staying within. The impurity limits is also there. Things like your nitrogen and things that you don't want in the gas. For us, in this part of the world, it's sweet gas, so we really don't have issues with sulfur. So we've never really had impurities. Our CO2 is within range, and we're also good on that. The last indicator is water dew point, right? And you can see on the drawing there the dew point analyzer that analyzes your water dew point and make sure you stay online. We also revalidate this, like I earlier said. So our gas is then delivered clean, no issues at all, and under no objectionable substance as in the gas. We've consistently met this gas quality since 2012. So we've never had a situation where the off-taker calls us, because again, they monitor us through SCADA, call us to say, look guys, you need to shut down. You're giving us off-spec gas. So since November 2012, this has been the level of quality that we've attained, and we are proud of that. Next slide. So this is just a pictorial view of our own densitometer, right? Remember, the densitometer is very critical if you must get your algorithms right in terms of your flow computer. So this depicts our own in-field. We didn't take this from internet, our densitometer that we use. And it's a reference condition in accordance with a given set of conversion factors that we then use in the flow computers. Next slide. So we, apart from the online GC, we have the offline GC. This is a Lucia type of offline GC that we can then catch sample of our gas just for checks, just for double checking, and then input it into this offline GC, and then compare it with the online GC just to check. It's just a double check for us. We don't need to do this, but because we are very big on quality, we are very big on not disappointing both the regulators and our customers, we insist on doing this. So this is the offline GC that we use. It's right there in our production chemical department. It's a Lucia type offline GC that we use. I'm sure some of us would also know about this piece of equipment. Next slide. So I had earlier mentioned our DGDO obligation, and it's something we are very big on. Because again, we cannot have so much reserve of gas, over 200 TCF, and then all that we do is export gas. We want to think of how we can also share this resource with our local people. So we are very, very big. Since 2016, we've had an off-taker for domestic gas. And what they do, that's typically their virtual pipeline equipment. They come to our plant, that's located just across our fence, right? And even as we speak, there are so many other ones lined up with levels of contracts being reached to also do the same thing. So they off-take gas from us and then compress it to meet CNG level and then take it to different parts of the countries and distribute. So our gas goes all way beyond the Niger Delta into different locations, courtesy of this arrangement. We shall see some of the hindrances or some of the things that are impeding our upscaling of this as we go on. But currently, we are sending our gas to the domestic markets, and that's really worth commending. Next slide. So that drawing, again, is a metering skid, as it were, for our domestic off-taker, right? That's the domestic off-taker. Again, we use the Daniel orifice type of orifice for measurements with the multivariable transmitter installed right there that measures all the differential pressures and sums up for you. Of course, you know the value of using a multivariable transmitter that compensates for change, which may likely occur during the gas stream. And in compliance with regulations, all the devices are subjected to quarterly revalidation. We've never failed in doing that. As we speak now, I think they just left site. So we're doing Q3 before we came here. So I think that's something that even the regulators can attest to. So that's a skid for our domestic gas. Just across that fence, what you see at the other side is some of our refinery tanks. But across the fence there, you could see the line that goes underground. It's coming off straight out at the off-takers plant just across our fence. And again, we're looking to have this contract with more of them just so we could keep pushing our gas more into the Nigerian markets. Next slide, please. All right, so as we begin to coast down home, it's important at a forum like this that we speak to some of the challenges that we have, some of the things that are preventing us from doing more, because we know that in this room are people who can profess us solutions. So what are the challenges that we have really? We have capacity, like I said earlier, to scale up from what we are doing. The 100 million scope that we're doing, we can scale up very easily to 400 million scope, 400 million scope, yeah? And we're also looking at some internal arrangement, that's what we call organic, and also organic options are doing that. But that is something we don't have challenges. Gas pricing is a major one. As we speak now, our major off-taker, there's an agreement we need to renew, but that's just been delayed because of pricing. So gas pricing is something that I think industry stakeholders need to look at if operators must continue to do good business in this country. We've had situations where our domestic off-taker would have issues coming to, remember it's virtual pipeline, will come to off-take gas from us because of bad roads. And again, like we noted yesterday, the decade for gas has already reduced by almost 3 or 4 years. So it's no more a decade, in case we are still thinking it's a decade. So if we must consistently meet that objective of the federal government, then we need to look at infrastructural development to say, what can we do to help operators to continue to do the good work that they are doing? So infrastructural challenges is one of our major issue that we have. Again, we have overcome many of the routine flaring. It's no more an issue for us. Like I said, if you come to our facility, you'll be impressed with what you will see. So for us, gas flaring is not an issue. Recently, just as last month, I and my boss is in the room here, went for the House of Rep has an ad hoc committee on gas flaring, and we were invited. We were shocked to hear that some operators still flare as much as 10 million scoff per day. Yes, in this same country. So that's shocking. We've passed that stage. So we need all the support of all the stakeholders that we can get to continue to do the good work we are doing. What are our recommendations? Let's get to the next slide, please. What are our recommendations as we conclude? Again, this is a story we are telling about what we've done, and that's why we've been able to, Aradel is a household name now. We've mastered the principle of revalidating our gas fiscal metering system. So anyone can come and learn from us. We are free. We can give you that knowledge free. And we think that quarterly revalidation should be sustained. I'm saying this because yesterday we heard some of the sentiments around, you need to increase frequency and all of that, or reduce frequency, like Mr. Yang said, there are costs associated to these things. So for us, quarterly revalidation is very much okay from industry standpoint, operator standpoint. And then improved infrastructure, again, is a point I need to make. Government needs to really look at improving our infrastructure. This would help us do more than what we are already doing. Again, if we must meet the objective of the decade of gas. Ladies and gentlemen, that would be all that I have to share with us. Thank you so much for listening.
Without further ado, we've just had that lead presentation, which, as a matter of fact, will also help us dovetail into the next topical issue on gas measurement, fostering harmony in gas sales and purchases. And to help us to be able to coordinate this particular session, I would like to quickly invite to the panel the moderator of this session in the person of Engineer Andrew Orji, metering optimization engineer at Chevron Nigeria. Please put your hands together for him. All right, so you can take a seat. You almost made me think that we were in the political period. Okay, as you went to greet the chairman and the rest of that, that's the way it works, and that is recognizing protocol. Thank you so very much, Andrew. To join him up on the panel, I would also like to ask that our lead speaker, Engineer Victor Kolumba, production systems at Aradel Holdings, to please join him up here so that some of those questions can actually also bounce off from your presentation to help us gain more insight. And then the manager on fuel and gas at NDPHC, in the person of Lawal Dambala Elias, to please come up and join them here as well. Please, can we have you up here? I'm very sure I saw you earlier on. Please. Okay, I said it. Thank you very much. You went there to conclude some regulatory conversation. Well, we want to hear some of those insight and thoughts from your own end. We'd like also to call up to the panel the representative of our able authority chief executive at NMDPRA, Engineer Farouk Ahmed, ably represented here by his Director of Gas Development and Operations, Engineer Musa Joseph. Please come up and join the panel. Yes, we want you up here. It looks like we're having a balance of more regulators, but we have an operator. So, sir, please come up and join them. Please put your hands together for him. You didn't think we were going to just let you go with such an amazing presentation on the keynote. We want to be able to, drill as much oil from, that well of knowledge. It's so very much important. We get that. And I'd also like to invite my very good Oga from the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission. I know you said you have one or two things you would want to comment on. Is the best place to comment from is here, sir. So please, can you put your hands together for him? Let him come up here so that we can have an elevated view while he makes one or two comments. Don't worry, don't make any statement that we might be saying in National Assembly. Just make the ones that will just help us to drive this conversation. Of course, we want somebody who actually has done so much in terms of technology also join up here. Mr. Bola Onlawa, MDC of GIL Automation. Please come up. Yesterday's his presentation was very, very in-depth and very apt. Very short. Today, we're going to gain more from all of that to see exactly how this issue of gas measurement, fostering and harmony in gas sales and purchases actually will go. And so I'm going to be working with Engineer Andrew to coordinate this session. You know how it goes, and then so that we're good in time. And I would like to quickly recognize our online participant to let you know that we're here live. Whatever contributions that you may have, please kindly do pass them across, and you can be rest assured that we'll honor you. Thank you. I know sometimes official demands may not permit you to be here, but we recognize you. And certainly we want to say a big thank you one more time to Aradel for the sponsorship and support. And then we also recognize First E&P, and I hope we have some of their members here when we're ready for other recognition. We'd like to invite them up here. Walter Smith, thank you one more time. And of course, Seplat for doing such a wonderful thing in identifying with this particular edition of the program. So right now, Engineer, over to you to coordinate the session for the next 1 hour plus or minus. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lawson, and I'll stand on the existing protocol. Okay, thank you. I hope he's fine now. Okay, so we're going to be having this discussion on gas measurement, fostering harmony in gas sales and purchases. Apparently from the topic, there seems to be a bit of maybe crinkum crankum. We still remember that man in gas trading. So the discussion will be a way of trying to mitigate some of the issues that cause this kind of problem. Of course, some years back, when we have issues between sellers, when there's a custody transfer, it's always in the oil sector, the liquid part. And, those of us that are in the industry, especially in measurement, we know that measuring gas is much more complicated than crude oil. So if we were having problem in crude oil, the problem has probably multiplied in gas. So we're going to be trying to look at solutions. We bubble up the issues and then look at the solutions to some of the issues. And I'm happy with the composition of the panel. We have the regulator, although Engineer Musa tried to extricate himself from responsibility on the presentation. He said it's his orga, and he's just reading, so hold him responsible. But Musa himself is an industry veteran. So we are going to hold him on what he has to say now, his experiences, his skills over time. So I'm happy that he's on this panel. Also, the revenue mobilization is all about money. I mean, that's why we do business. So he's going to have some contributions. And we have the purchaser and we have the buyer. Then we have the technology person who will try to give us some technical solutions to the issues. So I've looked at this topic and I tried to look at what causes disharmony in trade in gas. And I see regulatory framework, and then there's operational issues. How do we look at operational excellence, both on the side of the purchaser and on the side of the seller? And then there are infrastructural issues, metering, piping, and all that. So I'm going to structure this along those lines. And then even from the presentation of Aradel, you'll find out that there seems to be a different standard for export and then for the local off-taker. So these are the issues we are going to look at. I'm not going to this is not going to be about the export because that seems to have been standardized. And the issues on the export side seem to be a bit less than what we're having in the local trade. So I'm going to start, of course, the regulator, that's the gum that holds everything together. So I'm going to start with Engineer Musa. Now, PIA that was passed has, is a framework, is one of the best attempts we've made at harmonizing what we are doing in the oil and gas sector. And for gas especially, this PIA has changed what we sell and what we buy. Initially, we were selling volume and buying volume, which is not really correct because when you're buying gas, you're buying it for the energy it produces. So how has PIA helped in trying to mitigate disagreement between the buyer and the seller? Now, what is the regulator? Yes, you've told us theoretically what the law says. In practice, what are you seeing? Has there been an increase in disharmony, or has PIA, especially the change in what we are selling and buying, has it reduced the disharmony? And then what is the regulator doing? Is your hand tied by the law in any aspect from making sure that there is no disharmony in the system? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. You all know when a new system comes in, there are people that welcome the system and they're excited with it. And there are some that will not want the system to be changed. So when you ask the passage of the PIA, has it reduced these issues? Well, it has not completely reduced the issue. But we are educating the industry properly to understand the advantage and the disadvantages of the way we have been operating and the new system that we are introducing. Because the world has moved away from volume and it's actually dealing with the energy. If you are buying, you should be able to know what you buy. And he talked more on the domestic side. Yes, the domestic side is a market that is in development. And so we are actually watching, as a regulator, we are watching and we are establishing frameworks of entry and exit. So this framework will actually determine the quality of gas that you're bringing in. Like he said, in the export side, that has already been standardized and approved. You find out that you want to continue the business. The story of Aradel, you can find out they don't really have much with the export side. But the domestic side is actually, we are working very, very assiduously with the industry. My hands are really full because every day now I get data of the daily supply. And then you find out that most of the challenges is actually quality. That is challenging. Where the gas has to come at a certain pressure, it's not coming. Where the gas has to come with a certain level of dew point, is not coming. And all these are issues that are with, and we are solving them gradually with education. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Engineer Musa. That was a very good and quick one. I hope we can hold Engineer Musa on account for this. Okay, so thank you. So from the regulator, let's go to where it pinches, because usually in the gas sales, my own experience is that the seller is always the big guy, and the buyer is the one who is a bit on the receiving side. So I'll go to Niger Delta Holdings. Is that still the name? Niger Delta Power Holdings, yes, because they are buyers, and apart from being buyers, they're also a strategic partner in the Nigerian economy. They're into electricity production. And one of the best uses we can put our gas resources to is ensuring that we have power. All of us believe and know that power production is key if this economy is going to grow. So, Engineer Lawan, what has been your experience in getting gas for your plant? Has there been issues? Is it trending up? Is it coming down? What are the issues from regulatory to operational to infrastructure? What are the issues you're having buying gas that you use to power your plants?
Okay, good morning, everybody. Most of the problems we are having, there are several companies that provide us with gas. And the problem we have is our company is supposed to run as a private company, but it is owned by 3 arms of government: federal government, state, and local government. So instead of it to run as a private company, it's still running as a government company. Most power plants, as in IPPs, independent power projects, independent power plants have what is called power purchase agreement. We don't have at all. We don't have power purchase agreement. So in trying to buy gas, we have a lot of problems because you have to secure guarantee to what you used to pay the gas supplies. We don't have that. And for one of our power plants, that's Calabar, Odubani power plant, we have gas agreement, which is killing us. The gas is very expensive because we get it from a private company, and we have take or pay agreement. We have to pay 80% whether we take or not. So that one, I don't know how the PIA will come to our aid. Even though the Western Axis power plants, we have cheaper gas, though it is based on best endeavor. That is, when we pay, we get the money, because NCC, they have the leverage to just call our companies to come down. So if we have gas agreement as what we have in Calabar, we don't have guarantee on how to get the money to pay. And from one of our suppliers, we have an issue. They take their readings at their end, whereas we take our own at our end, and there's a very huge gap. So, yes, between what we measure, because they pass it through NGIC facility. So that huge gap, and NMRPA are still trying to find out what to do about it. They are trying to come between us. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Engineer. You want to respond? Oh, okay, so please go ahead.
Okay, just to add or to clarify on the last statement he made. When you said we have challenges, I said, yes, there are challenges. One of the challenges I found out as a regulator is that the shipper only have eye in the exit point. It doesn't have eye on the entry point. And the reason is because somebody is transporting the gas for him. So now what we have done, the network code has empowered the transporter to have entry conditions, a framework for the entry and a framework for the exit. So on his behalf, the transporter should see what is happening behind and ensure that whatever is happening behind is for his own benefit, and then also he has to see what is happening in front of him. So that's what the network is working.
Deserves some round of applause. Our regulators are doing their best. Yeah. Okay, so I'll still come to Aradel, but since this has come up, we go to how Gale Automation, Engineer Lawa, how will technology bridge issues like this? There are 2 custody transfer systems. Well, I don't know if their own can just be called a check meter. Yeah, I know in the oil side it's called a check meter. So the custody transfer system is actually the one from the producer, the one supplier. So, but how will technology bridge this gap between what we are measuring on one side? It's the same thing passing through the pipeline. Nobody is thinking that there is theft or anything. So how come what they measure on this side is not, how can technology help us? Or operational issues as well? Thank you.
Well,
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Lawan. Go ahead, Lawan.
I think even before thinking of using technology, the NGIC, which are the transporters, the pipeline is their facility. So they are the ones who are supposed to come up with how the gas is missing, instead of the company to be charging our company for the. Yes, actually.
He who wears the shoe knows where it pinches. So, Lawan, go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. I think Oga just gave me a soft landing. I was going to say that, technology only reveals or amplifies, existing condition. So if it's not there, it's not there. Technology can bring it forward. But having said that, from our experience first as a service provider and as a technology a provider or implementer, what I see is that first the integrity of the systems that is measuring on both sides has to be the same. Eventually, there has to be one version of the truth, which is first, which is what we've also seen with on the oil side, where with accurate measurements, with strict benchmark as to what is the expectation of the quality of those instruments. We first established that we're using the same, we're comparing apples. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I imagine that if there's no shrinkage on the line or leakages, whether, we don't see that as often on the gas side. So I would think it's more of the quality of the equipment and the integrity of those systems. But more importantly, I think that you know that the condition of the product also changes first with, there are many other physical factors, temperature, density, the wetness of the gas, the quality of the gas, and so on and so forth. So I would say that, again, this is where real-time monitoring makes a difference. So what I measure on my own side, 8 a.m. in the morning, is going to be different from what you measure on your side, 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So if we both have a timestamp as to when we measure, and we can benchmark on that, at least we can narrow down that margin of error drastically. Then, apart from that, you can also create maybe additional point of sampling and make it automated such that, you're not just looking at what's gone in, what has come out. You can also look at intermediaries. So that way you can narrow down the point of failure. But again, long and short of it is that, an instrument is an instrument. If it would amplify the quality of whatever it is that it reads in the system. So the integrity of the system is very critical. Operational best practice to make sure that we're measuring the same thing under the same condition, and more importantly, making it real time. Most of the GCs analyzers now have ability to be able to transmit real time. But what we see today is that this person is measuring on his own side and sending it to his own control system. So the operator knows one version of the truth. This other person has his own side and is measuring it on that side. Or sometimes the guy that is measuring manually wants his own version of the truth to be, the overriding factor. But somewhere in between, there's always that reality that if your instrument is well tuned within the same range of tolerance, and if you are measuring under the same condition, you should have the same result. So the more we can narrow that down by making it visible, agree on operating practice. For example, if I'm calibrating or proving my own master equipment once quarterly and the other person is doing annually, I would imagine that the amount of tolerance expected will be different. And as we, in the like you said, in the export side, the regulations, are strict, are firm, are known. You can't export without, there are benchmarks. But as the domestic gas kind of grows out, and there are other local players, one of the feedback that we see is more on the quality of gas that is being purchased, versus the volume. So the role of your PRMS, the integrity of your PRMS, the analyzers and the GCs, it is very, very important. So that's what I would say.
Thank you. I think Engineer Musa wants to respond too, but I want to add something to your plate too. So do you think that the disharmony can be reduced if the pipeline owner or the off-taker actually controls the metering system? Of course, with visibility to both sides, to all both sides, including the regulator And then there's a control room where people actually see what moves from here to here. In addition to the comment you wanted to make, do you think that may be a way for us to?
In fact, you just the comment away from my mouth. Actually, that is what the authority is working on now. And I have my management deadline to start this October. So first and foremost, we want to make the system transparent. So like he said, you take your own and it's only your own control that see it, and the other one is only his control. So we're bringing it to our system. Everybody will see it. And I get the data on the gas transported and offtake every day, and we want to make it every day. The second thing he also mentioned, yes, in the gas transportation, in fact, shrinkage plays a lot of impact. And right now, we have mandated, there is an audit going on the entire network. So after the audit is completed, we will now do the model for the network. And once we do the model for the network, then the shrinkage will calculate itself by the model. And that's what we are doing. We have a 3-month timeline on that. The only challenge we have, the 3 months supposed to end in November, but we had challenge of some staff who were kidnapped, but they are eventually released, so we want to see how we can continue with the audit. Also, the other thing that we are introducing also to foster the transparency is reconciliation. So how much did you give? How much did I get? We sit down, you bring your papers, you bring your books, we opened up, and we reconcile. So we have set the first one that will come in. We are targeting the reconciliation to start in this October. And then there's a virtual reconciliation that will be done monthly and quarterly, and then there's the physical reconciliation that will be done every six months. So we have to sit down and understand what is happening. Also, to enable the transporter to actually do his work properly, he's also talking about the conditions. We have a lot of off-takers on the network. So if his off-take point is downstream of a major player, you discover by the time the major player opens his system, the pressure drops, he will not be able to get his volumes. So that could be the reasons why he's having short volumes. And so what we have mandated, which the transporter is actually working on, is to see that we have inline compression systems. So once you have inline compression system, this network will be at the maximum pressure that it's supposed to move. So that even if I pull out my volume, you will still meet your exit condition, especially in terms of pressure, and he will be able to get his actual volume without any loss. So it's not that actually somebody steals, but like he said, there are a lot of conditions that we are looking at, and we are playing around with each of them, and we are trying to knock them one after the other. So there will be a lot of programs that we are going to unveil that will actually bring the domestic gas to the point that the export is at right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is one of the reasons why workshops like this are important. We get to know firsthand what the regulator, they're actually doing a lot, but you may not hear that in the media. So, and I'm happy the way the discussion is going. It's not accusational. Nobody is accusing the other. We are just trying to find a solution. And that's why I've left him, because he is not being accused of doing anything. But now I have to come to Engineer Columba, right? Or Columbia? Columba. Okay.
Please, before you move on,
okay.
I would like to ask him, in this kind of case, who is supposed to take responsibility? The transporter, the off-taker, or the gas provider?
Okay, you mean when the solution is implemented?
Yes, who is supposed to pay for this
shortfall now?
Yes, because when we analyze 6 months data, there is a gas of over 2 billion naira.
The difference between what they measure and
what we are supposed to pay, and what, the shortfall is over 2 billion naira. So It's like we are running at loss. Yes, just with 6 months, 6 months analysis.
Engineer Musa, I don't know if you want to respond or if that's beyond...
Yes, I want to respond.
Okay.
He's asking who takes the shortfall. I want to say in the gas business, there are agreements signed. So I believe his organization and the gas supplier and the transporter, they are into an agreement. So it depends on what the agreement terms set. So I will recommend that they go back to the terms. You know, he mentioned, like in the Calabar axis, where he has a good agreement. If he doesn't take the gas, he has to pay for the gas, at least 80%. So I'm sure if in that agreement that he has, and if you don't take, you pay 80%, and then he should also, to protect his own interest, he should also put it, if you don't deliver, you also pay me something. So, you know, but sometimes the domestic, in the export side, all these contract agreements are actually taken into consideration because of their experience. So now the domestic side, we have to start bringing experts to look at our agreements with this. And to also let him know, the PIA has made provisions, and the authority now, we are actually calling for some of these agreements. So we are calling for these agreements to upgrade these agreements to the point that PIA has placed. And we are also making them to go back to these agreements and to look at it critically. And so I would want to suggest to you, I can't say you take the blame or he takes the blame. Go and look at a contract agreement. And if the agreement does not capture that, please go back, use your lawyers, use experts, put it there to protect your interest. That if I ask for this calorific value or I ask for this volume and you don't deliver, this is how much you will give me. And then in the agreement also, now that we have the PIA, which has brought the functions of the network operator very clear, and also with the network code, there are a lot of things that the transporter has to do in the network code. And if he doesn't do them, there are consequences. So take the books, read them very well, and know your right and claim your right. That's what I want to say.
Thank you very much, and I'm happy you mentioned it because I know earlier when you guys were DPR, you were like, you hands off all the CHAs. You tell us it's between the companies, you know, yeah. But of course, the companies, there will be the bigger boy and the guy that is desperate. So it's never, you know, someone imposes on the other. But I'm happy that now you guys are stepping in to make sure that equity rules.
But you need to know, the agreement is still between parties.
Okay.
So we don't muzzle anybody, and I need to make it clear. So it will allow you guys to discuss, and we'll be at the side.
Okay.
It is where agreement is not being reached that we can come in to facilitate, not to direct, not to enforce,
Okay.
not to coerce, is to facilitate the discussion. And also I want to use this opportunity to say we have also published this year, 2023, the dispute resolution mechanism regulation. So also go and take a look at it. We know dispute resolution, you can go anywhere to get your issues resolved. But we want to encourage that, first of all, before you go far, come home first. Start with the authority. There's a department that can handle that and bring the two parties to mediate between the two parties. Why are we saying that? Because anywhere you go, they will call authorities to be either a witness or to bring documents to substantiate some of these claims. So why not start with us that have the document so that we'll be able to resolve it for you? And actually we have done I think I have done two with 2 cases which we have been able to resolve without going far, and both of them are happy about it.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Aradel, you've been listening to us, so I want you to summarize with your view everything that has been discussed, from the regulatory issues, operational, infrastructure, metering, technological. What issues have you had on ground? You've shown us how you use meters to make sure that things work correctly. Are there zero issues with your own system in terms of harmony between you and the regulator and the people that buy from you locally? Yeah, I'll come to him.
All right, thank you, Moderator. And I like how you dimension this conversation to say, well, the export markets seem a bit smooth, but I'd like us to piggyback a bit to say, even though it may look like all is hunky-dory right now, it's because certain things have been done, certain things have been put in place. And this is important because if we then take those learnings from what we've been able to do in the export markets, as we continue to grow the domestic markets, we can apply some of those learnings to the domestic markets. I said when we started 2012, no one gave us a chance. People were, who are these guys? I mean, the likes of the IOCs of this world were going to Rumuji node. So who are there to then think that they can come in and inject gas? So no one gave us a chance. But I think the correct industry practice that we've put in place, and I did mention that on a daily basis, an LNG control room can sit down there and see what we are injecting to them. And if it's out of spec, they have the right to even push a button or call us immediately to say, guys, stop what you are doing. But not a day has that ever happened, right? So that speaks to the quality of work we are doing in that regard. There are certain things we've put in place. Even the 20-kilometer pipeline between us, 12-inch, 20-kilometer between us and Rumuji, we have measures in place to make sure no vandals goes there. And we've been smooth all this while. But since the focus is on domestic gas, are there challenges? Of course there are. Of course there are challenges. And we are, as we grow that domestic space, it's important that, like Ogamosa said, the kind of agreements we sign is important. And I told you earlier that we have companies lined up to offtake gas from us, but we're being very thorough with the kind of agreements we finally close out with them. We're taking our time in doing that. We started that arm of supply, the domestic arm, in 2016. And the plan was to be a stepwise increase in offtake. We started with 1.5 million or 1.2 million scf per day. This is the 7th year, and we should be doing 12 million scf per day by that offtaker. But has that happened? No. Because, like I said, all of the issues around infrastructure majorly still hampers how much they're able to offtake from us. And each time you call them, what are the issues? That's the number one. And for me, if this is going to be the only thing we take away from this gathering, and I'm glad government is here, is to say we really need to be serious about, it's not just for the people. The people of Nigeria deserve it, but what are we doing to help operators in terms of infrastructure? And again, some of the things that the IOCs have done, like what we are doing with NLNG, in terms of the ability to see real time the automation issues, right? Because I'm not sure the whole picture with domestic space would always be about virtual pipeline. We know all the issues associated with virtual pipelines. So we also want to have agreements with people that can then run real pipelines from us to their locations. Are we beginning early to look at what could be the impedances to the success of such agreements? That's where I would anchor it.
Okay, thank you. So what I seem to get from your submission is that your metering point is with NL, the liquefied gas company. Is that correct?
No, so our metering point is within our facility. It's within our facility, but the tie-in point, it's at Rumuji, which is NLNG facility. But what gives integrity to that metering point being with us is the quarterly revalidation that I spoke with. So we cannot then have an issue where, like he said, there's differential in terms of value, because at the end, at every quarter, we have them come and witness how we conduct that exercise. So you sign that off, the regulators sign that off, NLNG rep signs it off, as well as our own selves. So that's how we've been able to achieve that harmony.
All right, thank you. So let's come to Ramp. It's all about money. So, and harmony, this harmony costs money. So let's come to our treasurer, the national treasurer. So how are all these, what is your interest, and how are you trying to make sure that anything happening here does not cost the nation dearly?
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Well, I would like to say first, the revenue mobilization, like you say, is all about money. It's actually one of the key takeaway from the Act is actually monitoring and disbursement of revenue for the Federation account. So that involves the entire country, and that's where when the cake gets in, it's expected to be shared. And now you have a lot of challenges ranging from security, lots of infrastructural decay. So every day you are pushed that we need more. And then because you have that function of monitoring, it gives you an overarching view. That means from the authority down to the producers of oil, it gives me a lot of it. So when you were discussing here, I saw a gap. I hear somebody say what goes in is different from what comes out, and that strikes my mind. Oh, we're losing money out there. So how do we gap it? But fortunately for us, I think I've heard the presentation of Aradel. I think it's the best takeaway from here that I've heard, that if actually there's a company out there that is actually doing it right, why don't we copy, leverage on it? Be rest assured, like you have said, it's free. Daily I get back, I'm going to send my team to come and understudy what you're doing, because it's going to help me in my monitoring process. You have a situation whereby institutions like theirs are already ahead of the regulator. So you see, there's the problem. So at least let's even measure up to where they are. That will help us to track the money, because we understand there's a lot of leakages. And then I was asking, there was a time we called in Nostra to come in and give us amount that is expected from penalty collected from gas flood. It was surprising. The figures they were giving was quite huge comparable to what the authority is giving. Now, there should be a point of convergence. They're all working for arms of government, so we should find a way of harmonizing. He said something very valid here. He said quarterly. They do like quarterly validation. Can we have that so that we can have some level of decency, so that at the end of the day, we're part of the process, we see what they do, we sign off, and then the service level agreement should be well implemented. That's where I take, because when we're doing, I don't see why what goes in here gets out. I was listening to his conversation. He says they do 83 to, if I heard him right, at some point in time he mentioned about 89 to 93. That's fantastic. If I'm getting revenue from 93% of what actually goes in, I'll be home and dry, and I'll be able to mitigate this. So I think from the it's an entire process, and we should look at how we can guide the process. I was interacting with him by the side, and could you have a case whereby some of those pipes are being punctured? I asked him, was it transported by trucks? Because when you're moving there, probably you lose some. He said by pipe. So I expected that if it goes through the pipe, what goes in should come out at the underend. If not perfect, but some light. But the number he's mentioning, that's quite huge. So I was asking, I hope some people out there are not puncturing those pipes again somewhere. He said they think they probably will be crude oil. So that's something you probably have to now find a way to leverage. And I'm sure what Mr. Victor has said will help us in really improving the revenue. But it's important to us, and that's why we're here. We want to hear where those challenges are in terms of how can we see. I heard he said some people were kidnapped. That shouldn't happen. When government hears this, we should put appropriate measures to ensure people can work freely and do their businesses. And on behalf of the companies, there should be some certain level of integrity. Whether you are an international investor or you are local, there should be that level of integrity so that we can all be better for it. You do your business fluently, because the more you get in more business, the more revenue it is to me. So I will want you to keep functioning so that we can get more revenue. I have a target to deliver, and I think this is where it all comes to. Thank you very much.
Okay. It's good always to be in the game for you to understand how the game is being played. Because the tendency is if you are watching the match outside the field, you will think that the players are just wasting time. And how can he be careless? He could not score. So if you call Nostra to give you flare volumes, it's a very wrong step, because they don't hold the data. And so for them, if today my flaring volume is X amount, then they will take today's X amount and multiply it by the number of days that you want and tell you this is what you're expecting. But those that are in the field know that X amount today is not the same thing tomorrow. In fact, even when you get the X now, in the next 1 hour is not X. So that is one thing they need to know. So please, I want to encourage revenue mobilization. He wants to get correct data, come to the regulators and get it. That is number one. Then number two, when you are talking about gas, it's not the same thing when you talk about oil. So they are all fluids. They all move in pipelines. But one is compressible fluid and one is non-compressible fluid. So when you are dealing with compressible fluid, that is why you have the Z factor, which it takes consideration of the compressibility of the fluid. And so once that happened, and that is why the metering you use for gas is different from that you use for oil. And then the equipment you put around the metering for gas is different from the equipment you put. And that is why he's telling you, when you are talking about gas, if I take my reading in the morning at a certain temperature, you take your own at a different temperature, there's a difference. So the losses actually is not because somebody is punching the pipe and taking the gas. Yes, there are some of instances like that. And one thing with gas is that once you touch that pipeline, you will see it. In fact, a sharp drop. It's not like oil that you touch and you don't see much until after. In fact, sometimes you don't even see it. But gas, the moment you touch that pipe, you will see that dip. You will see it. And that is why I was able to answer NDPHC that it could not really be that the gas is lost, but it's that maybe the condition as it's moving changes, and then you will see the change in the volume. So those are the things I want to act, so that when we go here, we go with a good information that gas operation is a very, very delicate operation, and we need very good metering system. And that is why I'm encouraging all of us, like he also said, go to Aradel and learn how did they do it. Because gas operation, you need a very good measuring system to give you accurate measurement. Thank you.
Yes, real quick. So I think our experience with regulators, even before the emergence and the PIA, is the moment you're doing the right thing. And I say this because I've been in conversations where you would see operators, and this is not to badmouth anyone, I'm just talking from the point of view of my organization. The moment you are doing the right thing, I can assure you, you would always get their support. You would always get their support. We've never had any issue in terms of regulation. I also manage the compliance regulatory aspects for the organization. So we've never had any issue. Once you are in compliance with what they ask you to do, as a matter of fact, the current balance is we are business enablers. And that's very correct, because all that they do is to assist operators to do better. And that's just what I wanted to add.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think we'll go over to questions, and I'll start with, I got a question here from an online participant. Said, good day, all. My question is for Aradel, and it goes, is there a standard on the specific equipment used for gas metering? This is to ensure that the same check meter is giving the same reading from the export stroke inlet. That's Kamza Mahmoud. That's the person that asked the question. Oh, well, I think this looks like K. Okay, Hamza, okay.
Okay, so when I was presenting, I did make a point around standards, and that was during the opening, one of the opening slides. adequately measure or meter without standards. So there are standards that we apply with. Not all of them were portrayed in the slide, but AGA 3 is one of them, right? The ISO numbers that I put up there in terms of each of the compositions are also standards. Yes, for a quick answer, yeah, there are standards. You can't adequately, and I'm sure everyone in this room would agree, have adequate measurements of gas without complying to standards.
Okay, thank you. And I'm also aware that the NMDPRA regulation tells us the kind of, tells us the kind of meters. It's not just every meter that you can come and stick into the system. So I think that's part of the standardization. So Akim Musa, please go ahead. Lawson, please, is there a microphone for him? You can, okay.
Hello, all right.
Yeah, thank you very much. All of you have spoken very widely. I'm happy Engineer Musa has spoken very deeply, both the technical aspect and the commercial aspect that involve the agreement. However, my own is contribution. It's not a question. Depending on the pipeline configuration, that's one, the inspection of the right of way, and then the type of meters you put at the both ends. So after you've checked all these things, I want to contribute that you have a check meter. It has happened in the past, though on the oil side. I know Andy is aware of it, but I don't want to mention the name of the companies. So a check meter that may be jointly owned, and all the meter readings, the totalizer readings, the sample taking is jointly done. The quarterly validation exercise is done jointly. An agreement to cover that particular facility or asset is done jointly. It will minimize reconciliation. It will minimize any issue of inaccuracies. And then it will also provide check for both sides of the meters at both ends. And then, of course, it's cheaper than for one company to bear all the burden of establishing the solution to this problem. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Musa. That's another industry veteran. So please, any other questions before we round up? Oh, okay. Please, hand the mic to him.
Yeah, my name is Tunde Bwaramasi from NEPL. The speakers has been so wonderful, from the producer to authority to the buyer. But there's a major concern that I feel has not been well addressed. It has to do with you have the off-takers at one end. They are multiple in number, and you have also the gas injectors at the other end. They are multiple in number. And we have a particular specification that we need to inject into the line. And those particular specifications are being met. But we know gas. Gas can go out of the phase envelope, and we have liquid. And this one will cause a major shrinkage. And we don't know who will take the brunt of the loss that has to do with shrinkage. I want the NMDPRA to speak to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, when I took over as the director of gas, that is the major thing that I saw. And this year, what we did, we ran an industry workshop with all the players, especially on the supply side and the shippers. And we deliberated very well on the issue of shrinkage. And like I said, because the network is not fully developed, there are a lot of things on the network that are not there yet. We could not be able to actually accurately determine what percentage of shrinkage should be applicable on the network. As a regulator, and another thing that I also wanted to say, you know, the PIA also kind of opened up the industry. We can have more than one transporter. Every other person can build open access, transport the gas. And my mandate given to me within last year to the end of this year, I should have other transporters that should come into the network, into the system. And for me to do that, the present one has to work perfectly to encourage others to come in. So I came in with a temporal figure for the shrinkage factor, which at that workshop we deliberated and everybody agreed that yes, that figure is good as a temporal figure to be implemented. But also we had it that we should be able to allow the network to determine the shrinkage on its own, either sectional shrinkages or overall shrinkages. So we agreed at that workshop that we need to do a model. We need to develop a model, which is now ongoing. And to do the model and perfect on the model, we know that shrinkage is unused gas and unaccounted gas. So for us to be able to determine the volume of the unaccounted gas, we need to know how many instruments or instrumentations we have on the system and other features and other things that lead to losses and also other unaccounted gas. So that is why we also undertake the audit of the network, which was truncated with the kidnapping, but we are still working to kickstart it so that we'll be able to get all those aspects and put it into the model we have developed so that we'll be able to. So to answer your question, after all these things, actually, shrinkage is supposed to be borne by everybody on the network, not just one person. But you need to determine the percentage of that shrinkage. The transporter, if he's using the gas for his own use, maybe heating or running his compressor, he has to account for it. And then this thing has to be properly distributed along the value chain. So which is what we are actually trying to do now for our present network that we have to get to that level so that it operates. The WACP network, that has already been established, and that is what we have been saying with Aradel. On the export side, yes, it's mature. But on the domestic side, we have these challenges which we are working to knock off these challenges one by one. And I believe by first quarter of next year, we should be able to achieve substantially on that network. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, please. We'll come to you.
Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. I hope what I'm going to say is not out of scope. And I know I'm not shaking any table. Currently, what we have as a transporter today is purely, I don't know if we have any NGIC person in the room. Is there anything the regulator is doing about this monopolization of the transportation? And then how do you curtail these cases of, I don't know how to put it, the distribution of the gas in the network? For example, what we have today from the apps, when the gas comes to Itoki, for example, there is currently plans to install volumetric controls or controllers in the network. But we find out once the production drops on the apps, some off-takers are severely affected, some are favored, if I have to use that word. The ones coming to either a BIM or a BAFO, to a large extent, the distribution is not equitable. So what is the regulator doing about the monitoring of this resource distribution within the network? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And like I said at the beginning, although this conference is about measurement, it's not about contract or gas supply. So, but I will still answer. Actually, what we are doing now, like I said, is to open up whatever Pandora box that has been there. And we are starting this month, October. Everything that is happening on the network, it will be placed on our website first before we finally build our own schedule that you can see it. I'm sure if you have not gotten, but very soon, either this week or next week, you will get a letter from us asking you to give us a reputable person that will have his credentials, that will issue him a login pass. And so he can log in every day to the site and see what is happening. And what are you going to see? You are going to see all the conditions, the pressure, the temperature, whatever, as at the time they are transmitting that data. You will see it. And then you that you are taking at the other end, also your own will be showing all this. And like we said, we are actually trying to mature the system to the point. And I'm happy that our, technology is here. He said there are some of the metering systems that transmit automatically, that is where we are finally heading to. Yes, NGIC or NGC took the lead by building a lot of network in the system. But if you also study the PIA, it has already break that monopoly. And so if you are here and you have the resource and you want to build a network, please come to us. We will give you the approval. You go and build a network. And if you build a network, definitely we will use your system. Already we are considering there are some other network that are outside NMPC that we are considering in bringing them under the supervision of the network code. So by the time we do that, we'll also let you know. So, but the system has made it in such a way that you can build an open access, you can be a transporter, build a transporter, and transport gas. So if you have the resource, tell us where you want to do, we'll give you the approval. So it's not that NMPC monopolize. It's just that they are fortunate before the PIA is passed, they are the only people that are doing gas transportation with some other few private companies. So that is what I want to say.
Who is with the mic?
I want to greet everyone here again as we deliberate on gas, especially measurements. My name is Chidi Nwosu, and I've followed keenly the conversation. I want to thank the authority and all the stakeholders here that have expressed several interests and different perspectives on how we can solve our problems. I want to particularly look at technology. I want to look at greater transparency and accountability at the reception side of these entire transactions. And I want to appreciate what Dr. Akin gave us somewhere there, and a good friend of mine there, I think his name is David, somewhere there today, talked about reception, shrinkages, and all the rest of them. We've seen the efforts at the transmission end, the network codes, and all the rest of them. I think, in addition to what Dr. Akin said, having a joint metering equipment at the reception battery limits is very key. Because if the contract can actually accommodate a situation where that equipment there is jointly owned and the gas supply agreement can cover that, it will go a long way to give a measure of assurance that we can easily converge. That's number one. Number two, there's nothing wrong with we saying that if gas has traveled for such a long distance, that we can't bring in some moratorium to say what are some reconditioning facilities to guarantee that Alaji on the other end does not lose about 2 billion naira on a monthly basis. That's a huge one to consider. And if you've been doing that for months, it's about time you flex your fiber for the gas supply agreement whenever it expires and you need to renew it, to come in with the fact that there must be a kind of regeneration facility very close to your facility, in addition to the joint metering facility that both of you own together. It will go a long way to solve your problem. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
So, yes, I want to also respond to that. Joint metering facility is good, like you said, but we also had instances where the injection point and the receiving point, they're almost like 87 kilometers apart. So in that case, what happens on the pressure drop per kilometer along the line, which is also things to look at. So sometimes when you insist the company should have a joint metering point, they don't want to because of those losses along the way. But we try to reduce those losses, like we said, and we try to mitigate it by having the compression facilities along the line. So that once you start with an inlet pressure and you are getting point, we are monitoring from the profile, it's going to drop to a point where the gas will turn to liquid, you boost it again and raise the pressure so that by the time you get to that exit point, it's coming at the right pressure, so which is very good. And then we are looking at that. And the authority is timing its authority on that. And there are so many things that we are doing, which I said very soon you will be seeing it. Thank you very much.
Good day, everyone. My name is Mohammed from Dangote Fertilizer. I want to especially thank the panelists. They have done justice to the topic. I just have a little observation which will be followed by my question. And I expected to see NGIC as part of the panel. And not just the panel, but NGIC should be one of the major stakeholders in the NIMEC. So it's my strong suggestion to the NIMEC. And most of my questions that I've jotted down, I've been asked by other members of the floor and also been answered by the representative of the chief executive of NMDPRA. Thank you so much. But I have one little question I need to ask you. Has the domestic base price of gas been set? If it has been set, what is how much? And I want to also throw more light on the reconciliation issue raised by Mr. Lawal, about 2 billion naira, right, in the last 6 months. So I don't mean to bust anybody's head because the representative from the Revenue Mobilization said it bust his head. Dangote Fertilizer is having a shortfall of about 20 million US dollars of gas. This is so because we are operating on 2 contracts. One is between Dangote Fertilizer and the gas suppliers. And this contract, all reconciliation that happens, it happens at the delivery point. This is somewhere 350 kilometers away. And the gas is being received by NGIC, and they certify that on a monthly basis and advise them to raise invoice. But in the other end, in our battery limit, we don't receive this gas. Over the years, from the beginning of the contracts with 4 suppliers, we have an imbalance, that's the shortfall, of about 7 billion scope. Not just to us. When they publish the attribution statement, which is done in volume, I'll see the production from particular supplier. You see unallocated volume, and you see 12 billion scope, 6 billion scope, depending on the capacity of the supplier. So now that the legacy gas transport agreement are being migrated to network code, what regulatory framework is there that has been put in place so that all these imbalances can be recovered by the gas buyers? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that question. And I want to start from the last question. You mentioned the old system and the new system. So in the old system, that's why you are seeing all those things. But in the new system now, in the new revision 1 of the network code, we are insisting that the transporter has to now do the entry and exit frameworks. So in that case now, definitely the transporter will be interested in what is coming in and what is taken out. And we have had series of meetings with NGIC, and we had to really make them take that responsibility. Because I told them, one of the key examples I gave them, I said, if I come and I tell you, I put this in a box, and I give you sealed box, and I say, please, I want you to courier this to Mr. A. That's what I want. And then you are telling me you don't want to know the condition of the item inside. You just want to collect it and just go to him and give him. What if I tell you that it is brand new and you open it and discover it is cracked, everything is broken? So who bears the brunt? And you tell me you're not interested in what I'm giving you. So we had to let NGIC know to be interested in what they are collecting your behalf. So even though the contract, but also what we encourage the players to do, the shippers and the off-takers, or the suppliers and the shippers, whatever, is any agreement that you want to enter into, make a provision in that agreement that your transporter should be able to do some certain things on your behalf. Because those are some of the challenges that we saw, that the contract agreement normally does not give the transporter any room to do anything on your behalf. So in that case, he cannot do, because when he wants to do, the shipper or the supplier will tell you, you are not there and I'm not going to open my door for you. But put some things to enable your shipper do some certain checks and balances for you before he moves your gas. For instance, at what condition is the shipper giving you the gas? Because he might give you the gas, and you know, sometimes, sorry to say that, not with any disrespect to anybody, and that is the challenge we are seeing in the domestic sector. I come to you and I said, I'm going to give you gas at let's say, at 30 bar. And then you are expected to get the gas at your own end at 30 bar. Oh, why do you want to give me a 30? Because that is what my production is, and I can only give you a 30 bar. And you're so excited because you have seen gas, you want to sign contract, your focus is your production, without knowing that if I give you that gas at 30 bar, by the time it reaches your location, it's only 2 bar. So are you getting it? So even though, yes, it's registered, the volume you ask me is the volume I'm giving you, and then by the time you get to that point, you see that the volume is missing. Why? Because the gas has lost pressure and has dropped as liquid, and all that you get, the little you get is few volumes. And that is why NGC, if it's here, which we have had series of issues, is that their lines are always packed with liquid, which is restricting them from moving the gas. So they had to keep on spending money to flush this line, to clear this, and by the time they flush the line and clear, they didn't enter again. And they challenged some of the suppliers, why are you giving me at this pressure? They said, that is the pressure I have agreement with my off-taker. So who are they to say, no, you cannot do that? But now we are giving them, empowering them to read the network code, to look at the entry and the exit frameworks and draft it in such a way that it will enable their network to work efficiently. So that is that. On your first question, yes, I will say we are still working on it. We have concluded the work on the gas price, actually, as the law says, since in March. So I'm sure they will publish it when the time is. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Mr. Chairman, please.
No, I was just going to make a comment that if you have this kind of level of intensity of discussions at the last day of a conference, it's something else. So thank you very much. Please, can we give them a round of applause? And just a comment, because I know that the director of gas, NMDPRA, has been touched. In fact, he touched it like 5 or 6 times. The fundamental reason that gas is totally different from oil. And as we in the country embrace more and more of gas, everything we've been discussing for the last 1 hour eventually must be translated into commercial terms. Unfortunately, we're all very technical people here, which is fantastic. So all those technical, operational, and even those commercial terms will have to even be converted again into legal terms. And that's the only time you actually have the framework that actually drives everything we've been discussing. I'm saying this so that all of us that are now embracing gas will know that what we've been discussing in the last 1 hour is just 40% of the solution. Each time you're going to talk about gas, you must go with your lawyer, and you must go with your gas commercial guy. You can't discuss everything as a technical person. But great, I think we've had a fantastic morning. Thank you very much for that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I'll just give the panelists maybe 1 minute to round up. Just give us your general view or any other comment you want to make on the topic. We'll start with you.
Well, while I got feedback, from the comments on the floor, one thing just came to mind that, on the oil side, we're getting into, or maybe the regulator is driving us into a situation where we'll have independent metering service provider that will, and I know it's still controversial, but I'm just saying, instead of us, on the gas side, instead of us, putting in all this capital and putting in this infrastructure in place, and then this question comes up again, is it possible that we start considering it now? We're already seeing that people are agreeing to having joint ownership of a particular facility. But then, in case of serious conflict, how do you bring in a third-party independence? So, can you, from the onset, say that, the custody transfer points should be independent on the domestic gas? It's just an idea being thrown out, and then that independent person is responsible. He has no commercial interest on both sides, and then is responsible eventually to ensure the integrity of that. Maybe bringing that in is almost like saying from the onset, instead of your employer paying you by cash at the end of the month, you say, pay it to the bank. Anything I see in my bank account, it's one version of the truth, and we both agree to it. It may not be as easy, because this is now real money. It's like outsourcing your cash points, which nobody would do that. But, maybe it's just a moonshot idea. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think from the interactions and discussion, one thing comes out clear, that there's still a huge room for improvement, particularly from the authority. If information is coming out from there and the other end, so I think some of those timelines you have given to improve on these facilities will be taken with utmost interest, because that will encourage other people to come into the business. And if we're able to mitigate most of these challenges, that will move more revenue into the system. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So I'll find myself, my 1 minute is to answer some of the questions. We, as a regulator, we don't want to impose anything, like I said, when it comes to construct issue between two parties. We try to be fair and neutral. So like the other speaker there spoke, and Dr. Aken also said, if by agreement between the two parties they should get a third party to put a metering system, good and fine with us. As a regulator, what we are interested in is that is it the right meter you put? Did you put the right condition? Are you checking it at the right time that you need to check it? That's all we are interested. So who puts the meter is none of our issue. You can choose to get a third party to put it, or you put it yourself, or you put it jointly together to monitor it. It's not an issue. So, but we don't want to put it in such a way that we impose that we can bring a third party, because it's all about acceptance. Now, if you insist that third party should bring the meter, will you insist that the third party should bring the pipeline? Will you insist that the third party must bring the facility? Because we just had here that he just mentioned, my gas is being lost. Is it that they are punching the pipeline? Are you getting me? So, but it's for them, like the chairman has said, it is good for you when you're going for any gas discussion, go with the right people so that your interests will be protected. And also, yes, the success of domestic transportation and distribution in the country is saddled on the authority, but the success and failure of it also, it is saddled on the players. So please go to our website, like I said, download that regulation, especially on the metering regulation 2023, and see what are the roles and responsibility of you, the transporter, or the other people, so that you'll be able to abide by it, and then we will see the success thereof. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually, I'm very happy about the information from the regulator that the transporter, which is NGIC, is, as in they are trying to impose the transporter to put a check the way I'm going to stop losing a lot of money. Thank you.
All right, thank you. My closing thought is in line with the question that, okay, has stepped out, that he asked around shrinkage volume in terms of gas. And just to say, and I'm glad Ogamos had already alluded to this, to say, I don't know how many of us are injectors to the TNP here, but there is a formula that the operators, owners of TNP have applied that works for everyone. Like he said, that's what also needs to apply to shrinkage volume. And that's to, first of all, check that what is being determined as the shrinkage volume is correct, and then evenly share amongst all the injectors. That's my closing thought. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we are bringing this session to a close. But I just want to make a remark. The chairman made a very important point, because sometimes when even the regulators call for stakeholders engagement, we go as technical people, you know, leaving out other people. If you don't go with your lawyer and your commercial people, you know, at the end of the day, it will turn back to bite. But in addition to that, I will also suggest to maybe the regulator that there needs to be a standardization of qualification to be a metering person or a crude accounting person in the oil industry. Maybe we'll start thinking in that direction, because I believe if all of us have that level of knowledge, you know, it will also kind of reduce the harmony, because we are the ones that advise. Even what the lawyer will say, the lawyer is not a technical person, you're the person that will give him your view. So I think it's time we start looking at that. I'm happy that either NUPRC or NMDPRA, in their new regulation, they say somebody must be qualified, but I don't think they defined that qualification. It's time for us to go into such details. So thanks, my panelists, and thank you, a very wonderful audience. Thank you.